Hello, welcome back to another episode of Minds on Mushrooms, where we explore the science, healing, and human stories behind psychedelic medicines and conscious living. I'm your host, Maggie Kirkwood, psychedelic practitioner and integration guide for intentional inner journeys. Today, I'm joined by Jonathan Robinson, a psychotherapist and relationship expert who has worked with MDMA personally and professionally for over 50 years, including guiding couples in therapeutic settings. We explore how the medicine works in the brain and body, why it's known for its heart-opening effects, and how thoughtful set and setting can create powerful opportunities for connection and healing in relationships. We talk about the science, the emotional openness, and the relational magic that can unfold when defenses drop and compassion rises. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Minds on Mushrooms. I'm your host, Maggie Kirkwood. Today, I'm joined with Jonathan Robinson. And thank you so much for being here, Jonathan.
It's going to be fun, Maggie.
I'm excited. A hot topic on Minds on Mushrooms lately really has been a conversation around MDMA and working with couples. And Jonathan, you're a veteran, I'd say. You've been working with this medicine for quite some time. I was just curious, can you just kind of kick us off with a little bit of background information and, letting us know how you're supporting people with MDMA currently?
Sure. Well, I took MDMA about 50 years ago and thought, oh my God, this opened me up to a whole new world of feelings and connection and intimacy. And when I was a graduate student doing my master's thesis, I decided to do the first thesis on MDMA for helping people with trauma.
Wow.
That was when it was legal in 1984, and then they made it illegal the next year.
Oh, wow.
So it never got published, but I've been, as a psychotherapist, helping people with MDMA for the last 40 years.
Oh my God.
And I do a training on it to help people learn how to be an MDMA facilitator. And it's the most popular MDMA training in the world currently. If people want to find out about that, it's at mdmatraining.net.
Okay.
So I've been doing this with hundreds of people for a lot of years.
Damn.
And when COVID hit, I wanted to see if I could do this over Zoom. And what I found, to my surprise, is that it works even better over Zoom than in person, because part of therapy is really creating a feeling of safety for people. And MDMA creates that safety, but so does Zoom, meaning people don't have to, go to my office and be there on drugs with a stranger. So, especially when you're working with trauma and people who had sexual harassment or rape, it creates a great feeling of safety. And I find that I get great results. So I wrote 2 books about it: Ecstasy as Medicine and Ecstasy for Couples.
Wow. And I think I saw you've written about 14 books, correct?
Yeah. I've written a lot of books, and luckily Oprah liked a lot of my books. So I got some of them to be New York Times bestsellers.
Oh my goodness, that's so amazing. But the most recent, it's called Ecstasy for Couples.
Yeah, that's the latest one.
All right. And
you might not know this, Maggie, but ecstasy was originally made popular as a couples therapy drug in the late 70s. And then it entered into like the dance rave scene and things like that. But it really works well for healing and enhancing relationships. And I find that I can do about 2 years of therapy in one afternoon with MDMA for couples.
Wow. Well, let's unpack that a little. By the way, I'm a huge fan of MDMA. And I would say, with all the medicines, I've always lately been trying to be more and more intentional. So I would say I've used it recreationally a bit more, but I want to kind of like dive into, if you're working with couples, is it mainly working with a duo, or is it kind of one-on-one? Are they like, does your typical session involve two people, or is it kind of like they each have their own experience and then kind of come together and discuss?
I work with the two people together. Now, sometimes I may be focusing on one partner more than the other. Sometimes one partner's had a lot of trauma,
Mhm.
and in half an hour of working with them individually, while their other partner watches, I can really help them a lot. But mostly it's really trying to bond the couple more and then look at what keeps them from greater intimacy, whether that be emotional intimacy or sexual intimacy. And as I said, you can, work through a lot of problems in a short period of time. Trying to help couples that don't like each other at the moment through their problems is almost impossible. But on
Mhm.
MDMA, people feel that bond, and working through problems is actually quite easy and even fun for couples.
Wow. And, I don't want to give away all of your secrets, but is this a situation where you're kind of guiding the couples or the people through questions? Or are you kind of just allowing them to have like organic kind of happenings? Or
Mhm.
is it kind of like a focused session that you've come up with your own method and protocol?
Yeah, think of it as like a 5-hour therapy session on steroids, meaning that I do a lot of guiding. Now,
Mhm.
sometimes the medicine will bring up stuff that nobody expected. I'll give you
Mm,
a personal example.
mhm.
10 years ago, my wife and I were having trouble because she was mad at me all the time. And this went on for like 3 months, and it was very unpleasant for her and I. And we didn't know what was going on. So I hired a therapist to actually live with us for 3 days
Oh my
just
God.
to figure out what's going on. And after 2 days, he said, "I have no idea what's going on. She's mad at you for like how you walk. It's like ridiculous." So he suggested we take MDMA together, which we
Mm,
did. And it came out that her aunt had died 3 months earlier, who she was close to, and she failed to visit her aunt in her dying day. And she
mm,
was very upset at herself for this and was taking it out on me unconsciously. So
gotcha.
she cried about all this. I held her and while on MDMA. And after the session, all her anger was gone, and we were great. So none of us knew that this was going on, but somehow the medicine revealed it, and
Mm,
we were healed. So sometimes the medicine just shows up something, and sometimes I ask a lot of questions about how they deal with money or kids or sex, and we work through their issues at a ridiculously accelerated rate, because when
mhm.
people aren't defensive and there's no fear, it's really easy, and they're bonded, it's really easy to work through issues.
Yeah, I feel like, with my personal experience with MDMA, it is such, a heart opener, like, to the point where I've overshared, I felt like, in my experience, I'm, hanging out with somebody and we're using the medicine together, but it's just kind of like this open channel of, all of the things.
Of
Uh,
intimacy, yeah.
yeah, so do you
Yeah,
you find, that's really kind of, is it something that it just kind of clears this path for people to come up with stuff they've either, like, suppressed or, like, is it, I don't know, is there any sort of neuroscience behind it?
yeah,
Does
there
it
there
have to do
is. What MDMA does is two things mostly. It reduces blood flow to the amygdala, which
Mm,
is the part of our brain that makes us feel fear or anxiety.
mhm,
So now you're fearless, and then it dumps a bunch of serotonin into your brain, which is helps you to feel really good and bonded. So the
m'kay.
combination of no fear and bonding is it creates almost like a truth serum or intimacy. If you look at the word intimacy, the instructions are in the word "into me see."
Ah,
And so when people share so vulnerably, there's this great sense of bonding. Trying to solve problems when you're not bonded is really hard. But
mhm,
solving problems when you feel connected is actually quite easy if you're guided properly.
Yes. That's so incredible. I was also curious. I've been working with people for about 3 years now, mainly with psilocybin.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I just can't help but think about some of these scenarios where I'm working with people where ultimately they've decided the best move is not to work out the relationship. They've
Hmm.
either and it's, at the end of the day, do you find that a big piece of the work that you do is the people have kind of committed to each other and committed to this experience, and the goal is growth and evolution of their relationship? Or are you working with people who are kind of in a situation where they don't know where to go? Should they stay together? Should they split? Is it kind of all across the board?
Well, it's all across the board. I'd say like half and half. And um, one of the things that does happen in my work with hundreds of couples now is that I'd say on MDMA, maybe 10% are very clear that they need to transition the relationship.
Mm,
But when they do it without the normal blame and animosity, which is really important, especially when kids are involved.
mm,
So I think of those sessions as being very successful, because they may have both become clear, yeah, the relationship's done and it's time for us to move on. And if they can do that without blame and with love, that's a successful outcome, even though it changes the relationship.
absolutely. I love that. um, are you open to talking about, when you're working with people, what sort of dose they're working with?
Yeah, luckily I've developed because I'm working with so many people and I have this training, I've come up with ways to make sure that couples can do this safely with the right medicine, the right dose, and do it without legal risk, really.
Mm,
So when I work with people, I avoid legal risk by doing it over Zoom, and it's
mhm,
much more convenient, a lot more cost effective for everybody. But I also tell people that they can get the medicine through a person I know on the app Signal, which is
mhm,
encrypted so they don't have any legal risk, pure medicine, which is
mm,
a problem when people get off the street. That's the biggest danger of MDMA. Half of the MDMA on the street is actually not MDMA
right.
or it's mixed with stuff. So that can be dangerous. So
Absolutely.
my contact mails them the MDMA plus some supplements that are good to take to avoid any negative side effects like feeling tired the next day. And
Mm.
that's worked out really well for decades. And no one has faced any legal repercussions from any of that.
I love the model. I'm such a huge fan of virtual plant medicine work. I mean, not only because number one priority is people being safe
Hmm.
and in their safe surroundings.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it seems like you really have a wonderful, safe connection with the medicine for decades. I mean,
Mhm.
and the fact that you've been working for so many years yourself and with others is so fabulous.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll share with you a funny story. Since I have been working with this for many decades, my parents always wondered, why are you working with this, illegal drug? Hopefully, it will be legal soon. But I said, well, it's hard to describe what it does, but if you ever want to take it, I'll supply it for you. Well,
mm,
my parents were pretty conservative, but I was surprised that they said, okay, we'll give it a shot. And
wow.
so I gave them the medicine and told them how to take it in a safe set and setting. And a year later, I asked them if they'd taken the medicine, and they said, yeah, we did. And I said, well, what happened? And they said, it didn't work. And then they said, well, we waited like 20 minutes and we didn't feel anything. Well, it takes about 45 minutes for MDMA to take effect. So I said, well, what happened after you felt like it didn't work? And they said, well, we had nothing planned that night. So ends up, we just sat on the couch and then their eyes lit up and they said, And, it ended up being the most wonderful evening of our entire marriage. We talked about how much we loved each other and how grateful we were. And then we'd had some arguments the prior week and we worked all that out. It was really a wonderful evening. And then we
Wow.
just ended up cuddling on the couch.
Oh my God.
And I'm
Well,
laughing the whole time because, of course, that's the effect of the medicine. But one of the things I like about MDMA is it's not like the other drugs where, you hallucinate or you feel really weird. It just feels like your best, most authentic, least defensive you've ever felt in your whole life, and, opens up the feeling of love. So it's really an incredible therapeutic tool that way.
mhm.
And, my dad on his deathbed said he was so grateful for that experience because
Aw.
it really changed their marriage over many years.
Wow, that's so powerful, but it's kinda like they didn't have any clue until they put 2 and 2 together, but I bet it made them so much more appreciative of your work too and understanding what you're doing, right?
They did. They were very supportive from then on. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's, so funny. We had the most amazing night of our marriage, actually. Um, do you do any so are you do you still sit with MDMA yourself, or are you kind of a more circumstantial
Well, I
user?
like, in my book, Ecstasy for Couples, I talk about one, how to get a facilitator, but also how to use it on your own. And my
Okay.
wife and I like to do it about once a year. It kind of clears out the cobwebs, anything that we've had a hard time discussing. And then, it helps us to remember all the specific exercises I talk about in the book that help people to communicate more openly.
Mm, love it. And just for the listeners, I kinda wanna just show what kind of the MDMA timeline looks like. We touched on it, but yeah, from the moment of ingestion, it's about a 45-minute kind of come up. Uh,
Hmm.
and then it's a longer experience, usually 5, 6 hours, correct? I mean, depending on
Yeah,
dose.
yeah. Well, when I work with individuals or couples, I do what I call a discovery call
Okay.
because there are contraindications to doing MDMA. The major one is that you really don't want to be on antidepressants
Mhm.
because they use the same neural pathway and they kind of cancel each other out.
Mhm.
So, we talk about their issues and any contraindications. And then if it sounds good, then we schedule 5 hours together to be on Zoom.
Okay.
And during that time, we do a lot of therapeutic interventions. It's very different than the MAPS protocol, which is kind of, you just listen to music and do it on your own. I'm very much a therapist in the 5 hours,
Mhm.
and we get a lot done. As I said, it's like doing 2 years of therapy in an afternoon. And then I'm very big on making sure people integrate the insights that they learned. So about a week later, we go over in another session what they learned and what they want to continue using to improve either their relationship or perhaps help them with trauma or anxiety or whatever their issues are.
Mhm.
So integration is a big part of it. And, it works really well. It's kind of fun. I'm a very impatient therapist. So, I didn't like just doing, 30 years ago, I was on Oprah for a book I did called Communication Miracles for Couples.
Mm.
And she said it was the best couples book ever written, which made it a bestseller. So I was
Wow.
doing a lot of couples therapy, but I found it incredibly slow and boring. It's like a long, slow slog. So, so now I try to just any couples where I work with, I try to do it with MDMA because it's a lot more fun for me and it's a lot quicker and I find I get better results.
I love how you are a big proponent of integration. I think with any psychedelic or plant medicine, where you're having these profound conversations and realizations and illuminations, that's really where the journey begins, in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. And when couples see what really open, honest communication can do, then when I give them very simple tools to continue that, they have a sense of what the target is and how to get there, versus maybe never having an experience before of what really open, vulnerable, honest communication can do and what it's like.
Yeah, I was curious, what are your thoughts? I have a few friends in this space who claim that MDMA, when they're sitting solo with it, it offers like this open channel where they're able to just glean all of this insight. And have you had any personal experience with that or with your clients?
Oh
Again,
yeah, I mean, it creates a tremendous amount of insight, but as you said, Maggie, the key is that turning that insight into consistent behaviors is
mhm,
what I think is a lot of times the missing link. So in my book and in my work and in my training, I really focus on how to make sure people take the key insights and turn them into behaviors that last over the course of a long time. And
gotcha.
that involves uh, partly motivational techniques and also really simple methods that people can consistently use.
Okay. And I just have to ask, are you, there's a lot of talk and around MDMA and sex.
Yeah.
Can it really help increase the sexual love life of couples? And is that a whole nother exploration? And do you work with people? I mean, suggesting that as a tool?
Yeah, I used to be more of a focus on as a sex therapist, and what
Okay.
I found is that one, people lie about their sex life,
Mm,
and two, when they're not on MDMA, it's really hard to get into the nitty-gritty details of what the obstacles are.
mm.
Whereas on MDMA, it's like talking about the weather; it's not a problem, and
Yeah.
it's very easy. It's not weird, and everybody can go really deep into the nitty gritty of that. So it's actually very hard to make love on MDMA because it's very hard to have an erection.
Mm,
But it's very hard. It's very easy to talk about the obstacles that are in the way, and as we do that, we can often eliminate those obstacles.
I see.
Sex is tricky, especially for couples who've been together a long time. They have baggage that has to be dealt with,
Mm,
and MDMA is really my preferred way of helping people with their love lives because it's so much easier, less painful, and more fun
mm.
and quick than just regular sex therapy.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's also been a lot of conversation with the podcast too around Kana. Have you
Mhm.
heard or experienced Kana?
Yeah, sure. I try most things that are out there.
Uh,
And, the good thing about Kana is that it's legal or mostly legal, but it doesn't quite do the job of MDMA
mm,
in terms of facilitating completely non-defensive communication and such. But if I have worked with clients that preferred to not ever take anything illegal,
mhm. I
so in
see.
that way it can be useful. And the same with ketamine as well at low
Mhm.
doses.
Nice. Yeah, I was just thinking also about the idea. I've been involved in ceremonies where it's the medicine is psilocybin,
Mhm.
but for the option of taking a smaller dose of MDMA to kind of lead into the come up of the mushrooms, which can sometimes, be anxiety ridden and whatnot. And I found it to be a beautiful method just to kind of, you know, just a smaller dose, but just easing into this larger kind of a more wild experience. Have you worked in that manner or heard of such using
Yeah,
MDMA?
there's candy flipping, hippie flipping,
Mhm,
combining MDMA with other drugs, and in fact, it has been shown that MDMA can decrease the anxiety of having a little bit of mushrooms and
mhm.
facilitate making sure that it's not a challenging trip. So in that way, it can be effective. And in my book, I go into that as well. So that's just starting to be studied now as a helpful combination for dealing with things like depression and anxiety.
And can we talk about what exactly the difference is between MDMA and ecstasy?
Yeah, well, there used to be people used to say that ecstasy was uh, not always as pure, but now they're synonymous. Ecstasy, Molly, MDMA, they all refer to the same chemical.
Okay.
Um, and but it depends whether you're talking to a scientist. They might use MDMA as the
Mhm.
term. On the street, people might use ecstasy or Molly, but they're all really referring to the same thing. Sometimes people would use Molly to refer to it as being really the pure stuff, but uh, those words can refer to it being pure or impure. The way to know if it's pure is get it from somebody who can assure that it's pure, or to test it. And in my book, I talk about simple ways that people can test their drugs to make sure they're pure.
Yeah, so important to do that. I'm also curious, just with all of your experience, I've noticed with MDMA, there can be a slight color shift from purples to pink. When we're talking pure, is that it's straight up no, like clear or white? You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm not partaking with the I've just noticed there can be a shift in kind of the color of the medicine.
Yeah, the color is not a reliable indicator of its purity, except when you use a testing kit, in which case the color that results can show you how pure it is. And
Okay.
people can learn about testing kits at dancesafe.org,
Mm.
or learn a lot about more in my book. So yeah, there can be different colors. The best way to know if you're getting the pure medicine is through the source, or other people who have tried that batch, or I recommend that people test their medicine if possible.
And just curious, do you have I was trying to touch on this, is there a specific dose that you kind of suggest as if somebody's new to this and they're
Mhm.
entering are you willing to share that
Sure,
with us?
sure,
If
absolutely. The standard dose is about 120 milligrams.
okay.
Um, and then with people I work with, they also get a booster, which is 60 milligrams, because some people might not feel that high and they need the booster,
Mhm.
maybe 2 hours into the session. And some people react a lot and they go, I don't need a booster, but it's
Yeah.
nice to have it there. I'd say half my clients take the booster. Occasionally, people are really sensitive to MDMA,
Mhm.
in which case they might start with a lower dose, because you can always take more, you can't take less.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
unlike other drugs, the range of people of the amount that people should take is actually pretty small. Most people should take about 120 milligrams.
Okay. And I'm just curious, when I think about all of these beautiful medicines, I had a wonderful experience with a partner, with Wachuma San
Mhm.
Pedro, and I felt it exhibited similar MDMA, um, feeling. It's just lighter and it's, I don't know, but I think it's a good one with a partner, so I'm just bringing it up. And I think it kind of does the same thing where it opens this, source of, safety to be more open and have kind of these harder conversations,
Mhm.
but yeah, I always think about that one when, talking with people who are interested in, working together with their loved one. Have
Yeah,
you had
Wachuma, which is basically mescaline at the
Mhm.
right dose, which is a little bit tricky to get the right dose that you can have an interpersonal effect.
Yes,
Because if
true.
you get too much, you're more having your own personal experience.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
why I tend to prefer MDMA, just because the dosing is very precise
Mm,
and easy to dose. Um, but yeah, Wachuma is a beautiful medicine, and I have worked with that before.
wonderful, yeah, that one's so fun to be outside and just,
Uh-huh.
taking that in all the nature as well. Let's see here. I'm curious. So your latest book, Ecstasy for Couples,
Mhm.
when did that, is that, this is a new release for you
Yeah, it
or?
just came out. It's out in audiobook and I think you can get it for Kindle for like $3, so it's quite available. And if people are really interested in this work, they can also learn to be an MDMA facilitator. And we talked
That's right.
about how if they use a coupon code Maggie 200,
Okay.
all capitals, they get $200 off the training, and they can find out about that mdmatraining.net. I've trained
Cool.
about 500 people to do this work. And my sense is that in the next year or so, according to Rick Doblin of MAPS, that might be made into a medically prescribed drug because Robert Kennedy Jr. is a big proponent of MDMA therapy. And
Yes.
it's in the works that hopefully the FDA will soon change its status, as they just are doing now with marijuana. Marijuana was in the same category as MDMA and heroin.
Wow.
But it's working through. It takes some time to change these things politically.
Yeah, I feel like, wasn't it over a year ago where we were kind of all excited that MDMA could finally be federally legal, right? But
Yeah,
it
right.
didn't. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it got voted down mostly as big pharma pretty much intervened. They stand to lose tens of billions of dollars if it gets approved, and they
mm,
they did their best to make sure it wasn't. But the science is so overwhelming. The science shows that MDMA is 35 times more useful than antidepressants in curing things like trauma.
mm,
Not slightly, but 35 times more. So
yeah.
the science will eventually win out, but it's a battle between money and science at this point.
Yeah, and there's a lot of battles these days.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But, that there has been tens of millions of dollars put into the science. It's been
Mhm.
shown to be incredibly effective. And eventually, it will, maybe in the next year or two, be federally approved.
I'm curious when we talk about, I think the big push with MDMA, being possibly federal legalized was the fact that it was helping so many vets, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
It's kind of funny that the vets and police officers are often the biggest proponents. I get to work with a lot of police officers. They come to me for trauma work. So people ask me, "Are you worried about working with people?" I say, "Well, probably not, because a third of my clients are police officers."
I have similar experience,
Right.
just with microdosing, and, I think it's beautiful. Yeah, I'm wondering what, if we're looking at using, MDMA, and working with couples
Mhm.
versus working with MDMA specifically trying to help with PTSD. Is it kind of the same notion that, somebody with very severe PTSD would be able to talk about the trauma, and just kind of work through it with the medicine? Is it kind of, can you talk about any differences there?
Well, it's really the same process, that because there's no fear while on MDMA, you can talk about trauma easily, you can heal trauma very quickly. And the same thing with couples issues. There's a lot of fear with couples
Mm,
issues. Once that is out of the way and people feel connected, it's really easy to then work with the issues that are really underlying the problems that might be there. Um,
okay.
it's very much the same process. Now, in the MAPS protocol, they were hoping that maybe just giving people a pill and not doing therapy would help them with trauma. And in fact, the science showed that it did. But I don't think it's nearly as effective as actually doing therapeutic interventions while on MDMA. They were trying to get FDA approval because it's called the Food and Drug Administration. It's not called the Food, Drug, and Therapy Administration. So part
No.
of the problem of why they couldn't approve it is they said, we have no way of actually there's no protocol, there's no history for how to deal with a drug where you're doing some therapy.
Right. Well, yeah, I just really hope that, one day, it can be legalized, and, it is such a powerful, powerful medicine. It can be so fun. But just
It's kind of like the Swiss Army knife of medicines, because it can be a dance party drug, it can be
mhm,
a couple's healing drug, it can be used for trauma, anxiety. Things like psilocybin have more of a defined way of working with them, whereas MDMA is more like the Swiss Army knife of psychedelics.
I wanna kinda rewind just a little bit. You were talking about working with couples,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of fear there. Maybe I don't wanna get too deep or personal, but in your experience working with people and their fear, is the fear more or less? Do you ever run into people who are fearful of feeling worthy to be in a happy marriage? Like, they're
Sure. I mean, a lot of people's core is they don't love themselves, or they don't feel worthy. So there are specific methods that I use to help people with those challenges.
Mm,
And a lot of people have those challenges.
mhm.
So, different things work for different people, but, um, everybody has belief systems, which I call BS for belief systems, or other things that get in the way of intimacy. And uh the sessions are almost like surgery, where uh
Yeah.
deleting
Crying,
things out, you're
yeah,
prying in
yeah.
and looking under the cover to see what's really there.
Yeah, I think, it's just one of these things. Well, I'm so grateful for you for just kinda normalizing the idea. Relationships are so difficult, and marriage is probably one of the most difficult jobs we can have.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I think it's just this notion that, so many of us are operated by our fear, and if we can just gain access and insight to just kinda dissect that and metabolize what's really going on, right, under. And, I think, a lot of people I work with, it turns out, they just have this profound revelation that, yeah, there's been a lot of self-sabotage, subconscious self-sabotage, and just generally this feeling of not feeling worthy of being able to feel good or feel in love or, receive love. And
Mhm.
sometimes I don't know, I just like to chat about these things to raise awareness. Well, let's see here. Is there anything else you want to check up or talk about before we kind of wrap up here?
Well, one thing I'd mention is I do have a thing on my website about uh, 12 questions that lead to instant intimacy
Oh,
with couples, and also 10 ways to avoid bad psychedelic trips. And people can just go to my website, xtcforcouples.net, and they put
okay.
in their email address, and they get those documents for free.
Oh,
Um,
wonderful.
and then, as I mentioned, that if people are interested in being a facilitator,
Mhm.
they can look at mdmatraining.net, and your listeners get $200 off if they put in Maggie 200, all capitals. And that might be something that people are interested in. When it does become legalized as a medicine, there's going to be a lot of interest,
Mm,
because it's just a much more effective way of working people in therapy than doing 2 years week after week, where you're resistant and you're
mm.
arguing and all that. So I have a lot of hopes for the future as to where this is going, and the fact that you can do it over Zoom really makes it a lot more convenient for everybody.
It's so beautiful. And yeah, I mean, are you, if people are interested in working specifically with you, can they find out that information at the
Yeah,
same
they can.
spot?
Yeah, they can contact me through the website. And sometimes I'm busy for a couple months, but I've trained a lot of people. I give them a referral sheet of people that they might want to work with if they need to do it like right then.
Sure.
Usually I have a little bit of a waiting list.
And do you find that most of the facilitators that are hoping to kind of learn more and become a facilitator have had profound experiences themselves with the medicine, or are you
Yeah,
just
that's what gets them. That's what gets
okay,
them into the
good.
whole area.
I
Uh,
would hope so.
and in fact, I find people interested in MDMA are a little bit different than people interested in mushrooms. I mean, there's a lot of crossover, but I
Mhm.
really like that. Usually, people who really want to connect deeply, want to have more love in their life, and it kind of attracts a really good group of people.
One more question. I'm just curious. I've been talking more and more with parents actually who are concerned about their young. Oh, shoot. I think I might have lost you. Okay.
Here I am.
There you are. Hi. I'm just curious, you know, ha has MDMA therapy been something that you've kind of opened up or talked to or worked with a younger generation, maybe early 20s, and, what sort so, yeah, just like to have any conversation around that. I feel like I've heard that when there's young people who are treatment resistant, they're really kind of get to this crossroads of, like, nothing's working, where to go, and sometimes I hear ketamine is, probably because it's more legal and,
Mhm,
it's really considered, you know, um, something where people are, like I said, treatment resistant or having suicidal ideation and things like that. Have you worked with people in this manner in the medicine? And especially, I'm just wanting to learn more about a younger
mhm.
person situation.
Yeah. Well, luckily, having done about 700 sessions over 40 years, I do have a lot of different populations I've worked with, and certainly younger folks, so no one under 18, of course.
Mhm.
Um, I find that people who are younger probably get maybe a little bit more benefit because they're a little bit more flexible in their thinking.
Okay.
So I've seen that really have rather profound changes. If you can like undo the belief that, I'm not worthy or I'm a loser or whatever, when
Mhm.
you're 20, that has a lot of implications for the rest of your life.
That's what
Um,
I'm saying. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Uh,
also, I've worked with a fair amount of mildly autistic people,
okay.
and that's been very profound. Now there's some studies showing that MDMA is particularly useful working with the people on the autism spectrum because it helps them to feel empathy and open up to a world of feelings that might have been a little bit new to them.
Wow. That is fascinating. And um, yeah, I'm so fascinated by all of that, and I feel I've been hearing more and more about psilocybin being beneficial for
Mhm.
young adults with autism, helping with social skills, all the things. So, um, happy to have any conversation as always around all of it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's an exciting time with all these different drugs. They each have their best use,
mhm,
and I would say MDMA is really a great therapeutic accelerator, whereas
yes.
maybe like things like psilocybin are more spiritually focused and have been shown to be really effective for things like depression.
Mhm. That's
So
a
they
good
each
way
have
to
their
put it.
use, and we're lucky that it's all coming more available.
Yep. Little by little, conversation by conversation.
Mhm.
Well, I will be sure to include all of those links so people can check out your latest book and your work with helping people to learn more and be able to facilitate with this medicine. That's just amazing. I myself might be looking into that. So, um, but yeah, it's been a wonderful time and conversation, and I just appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your expertise. I don't know if I've had anyone on this show who's worked with medicine 4 decades or more. So
Yeah.
what a
Yeah.
leader, and you should be really proud of yourself and your work. And I can't wait to just continue following and cheersing to the day when this beautiful medicine is legalized.
Yeah. Yeah. And thanks for the good work and good information you're putting out, Maggie.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jonathan. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the journey. You can tune in to Minds on Mushrooms on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts.